Uh, everyone. My name is Jake Clark. I work at New Relic, just up the road. I'm a senior support engineer there, and I graduated Tech Academy, I think, about a year and a half ago. And ever since then, I've been, with like a month in between, I've been working at New Relic, and it's been a super awesome experience. And I was invited down to talk just kind of what my experience was emerging from Tech Academy, what my experience has been at New Relic, and kind of I think some of the discoveries I made, some of the realizations I had that were maybe a little bit different coming out of Tech Academy. Some of my expectations got reset, and just kind of tell you what my experience has been, and hopefully encourage you all to know exactly what opportunities exist for you as you come out of here. I totally try to keep this stuff conversational, so please feel free to interrupt my rants with any questions that pop up for you. That will probably greatly determine how long I'm here, is how many questions you have. So definitely ask as many questions pop into your head. I may or may not know the answer, but I'll do my best. To give you a little bit of background on myself, I spent the last 10 years prior to getting into tech in sales and marketing. Had never done anything technical, had never touched code except for like when I had MySpace and I tried to change the background color of my MySpace profile, but like that was my closest brush with HTML, and that was kind of it. So I had no idea, but I've always been, as I'm sure lots of us have said before, I've always been interested in tech. It kind of seemed like the way that everything in the future is going. If you look at any company out there, pretty much everybody is a tech company now. Bed Bath & Beyond's a tech company, Disney's a tech company, GE is a tech company. Some of them aren't surprising, some of them are, but as I've had my head in the tech world more and more, it just becomes apparent that, all of our industries are completely reliant on technology and coding, and it's really hard to survive as a business without that. So that kind of gives you an idea of just how expansive opportunities can be as you emerge into this field. Everybody needs it. Everybody needs it, and everybody needs it in different ways. So I dove into Tech Academy because I was super tired of convincing people to like me so that they'd give me money, and decided I wanted to work on puzzles that weren't people, and so I went into tech and signed up here, started going through the course, and I went through this course, I think, at about half the pace was expected because it was really hard for me. Like, I'd never done it before, and it was a totally new way of using my brain. And I thought the courses were excellent, and the guidance provided by the instructors was excellent. But despite that, it took me a long time to wrap my head around a lot of the concepts. So I would not be what I considered like an ace. I'd watch other peers that started around the same time as me just zoom off, like came really naturally to them, and it did not so much to me. But I did manage to get through. I made my pizza website, or two pizza websites, and my whatever calculator and all the little side projects that you get to do as a part of your curriculum here. And I felt like I came out with like a decent understanding of the beginnings, the essentials, which I think Tech Academy really strives to give you that underpinning. I came out and started thinking really hard about what kind of projects I wanted to work on. When you come out of Tech Academy, I think it's really easy to just be like, give me absolutely anything. And I think there's some value in being as flexible as possible to what opportunities might come your way, or what you should just try to take off the bat. But I think there's also a lot of value in doing your best to listen to yourself and what you're naturally interested in. At the end of the day, you're going to be writing code, more than likely. And what company do you want to write that code for? What kind of things do these companies work on that make you excited? I think that is a valuable component to consider, and I think it's worth honoring within yourself too. So as I kind of crunched on that, thought about what I wanted to do, the first job application I threw out was for a company that I just wanted a job. I wasn't that excited about what they do. It was Zapproved or Z-approved. I'm not exactly sure how to say it. But they do this. They write the software for e-discovery for lawyers and law processes. And super not interested in law. And I thought the culture was cool, and I was able to kind of sell myself on the company culture. And that was, really prevalent in my cover letter about what excited me about Zapproved. But at the end of the day, my lack of excitement for what they do influenced how I went about my interview there. And so that's why I say I think it's really important to pay attention to what's going on your insides and like what are you going to be able to take hold of and find excitement for in the places that you're applying to. Like I said, I think that really impacted my potential at Zapproved. And you know, at the end of the day, I'm glad I didn't get a job there because I'm just not that excited about what they do. That doesn't mean it shouldn't excite you. If you are excited about it, absolutely, do it. But my next stop was New Relic, and I had gone to a meetup at New Relic and went up to their like neon lobby and was like, whoa, it's like a nightclub in here. This is kind of cool. And started doing more homework on New Relic. And I think one of the wonderful things that the Tech Academy does, at least while I was here, is they really encourage you to get in the mindset of, you know, what things are you excited to pursue? You know, we've got this range of classes and languages you can learn, but what are the things that you're excited to work on? And one of the things that started to become apparent to me as I went through the SQL course was that I thought like sifting through data was really fun. I thought it was really cool to like pull specific data, manipulate it, present it the way I want, and for whatever reason, that was what struck me. Like I geeked out over just data. And New Relic is a big data company. And so not only had I had the opportunity to go to one of their meetups and find out a little bit more about what they're about, but I also was able to do homework and find out kind of what field they're in. And what New Relic does is application performance monitoring. So we have what's called an agent, and we have several different agents written in several different languages from Node and Java and Ruby, PHP, Python, and more. And basically, you are Uber with your Uber app, and your Uber app runs lots of different services segmented out into their own little code structures. And you install the New Relic agent, you implement it into that code, and that agent sits on top of what that code does and monitors every single thing it does. And it sends you crap loads of data about what that thing is doing in the form of charts and tables. And you can sift through that data and find out, you know, oh, well, when this user in Alabama clicked the confirm my Uber button, there was like a 10-second stall. That's not normal. Oh, several other users in Alabama are seeing a 10-second stall when they click this button. That's not good. Now we can be proactive and find out where that breakdown is and remediate the problem before everybody in the state of Alabama is getting a 10-second stall. So I think it's really cool because not only is it working with lots of big data, but it's finding really creative ways to put that data to use for companies in action, real time, and they get the opportunity to get deep level visibility on exactly how their application is performing, and then take action on how to make it better in the moment. So I thought that was like a really cool concept, and that lined up with kind of what I had found out about myself going through the SQL course and seeing what I was excited about. And so I started digging in. And as I dug in, researching about New Relic and preparing to apply, a lot about their culture came to light too. And that was another big thing that really excited me. You know, I think it's pretty common to have, you know, amongst the various industries that exist in the tech world, there is a decent forward push on being progressive and on being diverse. And you know, some tech companies do it better than others, but that is a part of tech culture that does exist. And New Relic, from everything I can see, and totally speaking from my own bias now that I've been there, really pushes forward on that. And that's really inspiring to me because for the last 10 years in sales and marketing, I've worked for a lot of companies that do not match my values, that do not match the way that we should treat customers or consumers. And that's always what made it really hard for me in that industry. I was the most mediocre salesperson because I wasn't willing to sell my soul, but I was also decent at connecting with people. So, you know, all my managers wished I had sold my soul more, and then I would make more money. But New Relic really matches my values. So I think that's another important component in trying to figure out where you want to work, is finding a place that does match your values, because as I've had this experience, I no longer hate having a job. Which is, I think, also a common experience. You know, if this is where I'm going to spend 40 hours of my week dedicating myself to something, I want it to be somewhere that matches my values. And so I think being in kind of the vulnerable position we can be in as we're going through a career shift as big as this, you know, or at least as was big for me, and being in a place where you're like, okay, well, I'm making a shift in my career. Also, I don't have a lot of money left over in my savings, and I kind of need to take anything. It can be really easy to lose sight of staying true to yourself and remembering that you are worth working for a company that matches your values. And you are worth working for a company that is going to uphold those. So I feel really, really fortunate that I landed at New Relic because it does just that. The other big part of this process, though, and some things that I learned about myself while at Tech Academy, was that I do like puzzles, and I do like solving problems, and I think that code is cool. But I found that I did not like having my head down in a computer as much as I thought I might, and especially that contrast of going from an environment where I'm working one-on-one interpersonally with a lot of people all the time to the opposite end of the spectrum of really not talking much and having my head down and learning and crunching and just hours flying by without realizing it, and suddenly it's dark out. And at first that was really exciting to switch into that when I first got into Tech Academy, and then after a few months I started to just realize that I actually did miss human interaction, I think, a little bit more than what I felt I was being afforded with what I was doing. And so I started trying to, as I came out of Tech Academy, open my eyes up to maybe roles that would exist that would let me combine both worlds. And before I move further into that, I think it's a totally fair thing to say that when you do become a software engineer, you do interact with a lot of people in your day-to-day. I remember hearing tech talks when I was here where people would say, I do spend a solid chunk of time coding, but then I spend a solid chunk of time in meetings talking to people and collaborating. That's absolutely an element that exists in engineering. But I think I still craved more human interaction and collaboration than I was getting. So I went and I applied for the support organization at New Relic, and so I'm now a senior business support engineer is my full title, and I do a lot of really interesting things in my day, and I love it. My day is incredibly varied. I am crunching on multiple problems at once. I'm in a high level of collaboration both with my peers and the customers that I'm working with. So I'm in the technical support org. What that means is that developer at Uber who's seeing that 10-second slowdown when their customers are pushing that button is now reaching out and being like, I see a 10-second slowdown on my chart. What's going on? And I'm like, well, you should be able to read that chart yourself, but let me help explain this. And I dig in and help them understand, nope, that's not an anomaly. That is, you have a legitimate issue going on. Here is where our information is pointing to you that things are broken or messed up. And then we can get even further down into the weeds, and they can say, okay, well, I'm trying to implement this .NET agent in my application, and it's throwing errors, and I'm not getting data. So then I have them send me their code, and I compare and contrast against the code that they should have, and I help them troubleshoot. And so I do end up digging around in code a good amount, and I end up writing code here and there too. Although we do our best to make the other developers write the code at the company that should be writing the code. So the whole point there is that there's a pretty large swath of opportunity that the skill sets you're learning here at the Tech Academy can apply to. And I think that my mindset coming out of the Tech Academy was that I need to be a software engineer, I need to be a software engineer, I need to be a software engineer, despite that not feeling 100% true to myself and kind of the discoveries I made while I was here. I think the other thing that I've discovered is that there is a limited need for software engineers. Everybody has needs, but they only need 2 at a time, or 1 at a time, and it's a pretty competitive world. And so it's worth your while to open up and look at what other opportunities you can apply your skills that you've learned here with other companies. I know so many people who have gone through code boot camps now who have either gone straight to a junior dev role, who have gone into the support organization, and there's multiple roles within the support organization that, you can specialize in PHP, like the PHP agent. You can work on just that if you want, if PHP is your jam. Or the .NET agent, because I know Tech Academy is a pretty heavy .NET house, you can work on the .NET agent. So you have those options, but you could go into technical writing. You could if you really like writing and explaining concepts really thoroughly, you could go into the documentation team and work there. And you absolutely need to know the things that you know coming out of Tech Academy to be successful in that role. And if you didn't know those things, you wouldn't be successful in that role. you could go into pre-sales solution architecting, where you are, technically within the sales org, but you're really helping the customers that are on deck to become customers um, crunch through their problems and figure out, how does New Relic's products apply to their needs and how can we make that happen? And you're crunching through code doing that, but you're not necessarily developing something for a company. So again, reiterating that point that there are so many things that you can take these skills that you're getting here and apply to, that my encouragement for you would be, if you know you want to be a software engineer, hammer that, do that. But if you know that you could be happy doing something else, try for that too. It's my experience has just been so eye-opening. I feel that, when I first applied for the support org, despite kind of those things I discovered about myself, uh, I did feel a little bit like I was letting myself down from my goals, because I came in here going to be a software developer. I'm going to come out and I'm going to get a job as a software developer. And I got this job as support org, and it was a 180 for me in terms of my mindset. Um, I I have kind of a cool position in that we have business support engineers and we have technical support engineers. TSEs deep dive on one of those products, and we have something like 25 products. So more clearly, they deep dive on like 2 products. BSEs have more of a shallow knowledge level on every single thing in the platform. So I have this really cool opportunity to observe the way that everything interacts on a high level view, and also troubleshoot the way those things interact instead of just being siloed down into this one category. That's something that appeals to me, but I mean, ask any TSE at work, they love being siloed down into one category. So again, just remember what you like. What's also interesting in my time at New Relic has been that, like, 50% of the people I meet are like, oh, I started as a BSE. That's cool, you're a new BSE. And it's such an amazing launching point for getting into the industry, getting into the company, and then being in the growth mindset that New Relic promotes. And they have an incredible internal career development platform. You can go explore whatever you want, and they will support you. Your manager will support you. Your manager will have one-on-ones with you weekly, helping you strategize how you get to the next place. And that's one of the things I really love about New Relic is they invest so heavily in their employees that it makes it really hard to think about going anywhere else. And I'm sure at some point in my future I might go check out another place, but New Relic has set the bar really high. So that's one of the things I get to experience there is career planning and goal setting, and the company's incredibly transparent in how they are doing with developing their employees. They will send out surveys and then have giant global all-hands meetings where they bring us together and are like, hey, looks like last quarter we let you guys down in this one area. Here's our commitment to do better, and here's how we're going to do better. And then the next quarter, we get another set of survey results and say, hey, last quarter we said we were going to do better at this. It looks like we ticked up on that, but it looks like we fell down in retaining our employees that were of a minority status. And here's our commitment on how we're going to do better with retention on minority employees. And it's really cool to work at a place that focuses so heavily on that and works so hard at inclusion, and they completely admit they're not perfect, and they're not perfect. But it really highlights to me their focus on making sure that their employees are valued, respected, and supported in the way that they need to be successful. And I feel that every day that I'm there. So I think that's the majority of my speech at you. I would love to take some questions, hear about where you're at, what you're thinking about, maybe what some of your doubts are. Anything you want to throw at me, I'm happy to share what I can tell you about it. Yeah.
Do you have a college degree?
Nope. I took 4 college classes when I was 20.
Nice. I was just kind of asking because I have a college degree, but I have a tough time finding a job, so like I just kind of want to get a bit of
Perspective there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was looking at changing my career, one of the big pushes that I was given was that I have a friend who's he's a project manager now, or maybe a product manager at some steel company that is now a tech company, but they make steel, they produce steel. And he was telling me, like, no, you don't need the 4-year CS degree. You just need the boot camp. Like, it's going to give you the skills you need to enter the industry. You just, like, be as tenacious as possible, and you should be good. And so that's what prompted me to jump in. I have a lot of, I own a business outside of everything I've ever done, and I think that has been helpful to me in showing some of my effort towards self-starting as well as just changing careers. So I think, resumes do go a long distance, and as much as you can fluff up those resumes is really important. I've always been envious of the folks who have a college degree and what I perceive them holding over my head in terms of possibilities in getting a job. And I know sometimes it's just grass is always greener. But I think I got lucky in that the second place I applied, I got a job. And I don't mean to say that experience is going to be everybody's experience. I have a friend who also went to the Tech Academy who, it took him, I think, 6 months to get a job, and it was just heavy applying. Part of it plays into luck, because I think we all emerge from here with a pretty big skill set and a lot to provide for a company. And sometimes it has to do with how you match up with their culture. New Relic interviewed me 8 times before I got my job. And it was intense, but it was also the most comfortable interview I've ever had. And that's, speaks to the experience they provide. But the reason why I interviewed 8 times is because they considered me a good fit for their culture, and they wanted to find a spot for me. So jobs that I'd been interviewing for, better candidates came along by way of skill, but I was a good cultural fit. So I think it is important, as you look for your job, heavily research the culture of the company and find out how you fit into it, and explain to them why that's exciting to you when you get the interview. That was a big thing. New Relic could tell that I had nerded out on their culture and what they do and what they provide to the community, and that was something that was really exciting to me. And when they told me that the job got filled, they're like, we had somebody internally fill that position. Again, speaking of how they internally develop their employees. But you are a good culture fit. We absolutely see you as a Relic, and we'd like to just keep throwing you in interviews. We're sorry. So I think, it's 2 parts. It's definitely its background and it's the skills you come out with, but it's also finding out how this company excites you and how you can convey that to them. Yeah.
From your experience at Tech Academy, how would you give us advice to maximize our investment in our time while we're here?
Totally. Don't do what I did, which was not attending these things. I maybe attended 2 or 3 tech talks, and I did not go to many of the job skills training courses. I don't know if Erin's still doing those.
No, but we still do the roundtables.
Yeah. Those were a huge benefit. I spent so much time here learning. Like I said, I think when I went, it was projected to be about a 4-month program, and I took 9 months to get through the program. And so I was less focused on job skill development and more focused on God, I just really need to learn Python. This is hard. And so that's what I did. And by the time I came out of here and was ready to get a job, and my time was up, and now the rubber hits the road, I did feel a little lost with not feeling like I was developed enough in knowing how to apply for jobs in this specific context. I've applied for jobs and I've gotten jobs in sales and marketing, but it's a totally different ballgame with tech. And so I was out of the Tech Academy, and I went ahead and tapped into lots of online resources. I bought interview guidebooks, all kinds of things, and basically tried to fill in the gaps that were afforded me here that I should have been just filling here, but I didn't. So I say definitely take advantage of the resources provided here, because you'll end up just paying more money out of pocket to try and find somewhere else later. Sure. And also, I was self-conscious about my knowledge level, so I did not lean on my instructors very much because I was just a self-conscious guy. So lean on your instructors.
I wanted to ask about the combination of having sales skills with coding, and I figured you wouldn't have an answer, but you actually did. You mentioned pre-sales and coding. Do you have any other examples where someone with a sales background and coding
Intermingle? Yeah. So in the sales division of New Relic, the sales org, there are a lot of different positions you can be in. There's the pre-sales solution architect. There's also jobs where you're basically the post-sales solution architect. So there's post-sales solution architects. There's CSMs, customer success managers. Those are basically people who take on accounts that have now been landed and who are implementing the products. But need high-level hand-holding, and like you'll go on site and you'll work with them and they'll be like, hey, we're trying to monitor this specific section of our stuff. Here's our code. Can you look at it and tell us how we can best instrument the New Relic products to monitor this effectively? So there are a lot of roles that exist in that realm. Let me try and rattle some off. So pre-sales solution architect, post-sales solution architect, solution consultant, CSM, customer success manager, SCXM, support customer experience manager, SDR, sales development representative. There's a lot, man, and I think that those skills really flow together and intermingle. Now, I think based on my experience at New Relic and the experience that I've had some peers have at other companies, you know, you do come out of here with a really amazing foundational set of skills, but no matter what company you go to, there is a huge ramping up to understand exactly their stuff and how it works and how you can build that knowledge on top of the foundation you have here. So, I mean, my onboarding process at New Relic to just become familiar with the platform and what we offer was about 2.5 months before I was like, okay, go fly, little Jake. And even from then, like I'm still drinking from a fire hose of information that is specific to New Relic. So I would set that expectation that no matter where you go, there's going to be a lot of really specific learning and information you do that's relevant directly to the company you work for. But that again, that foundation you learn here, and then you know your prior background in sales will really flow into that. There's another thing I was going to touch on, but I'm forgetting it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the type of guy that, like, being true to myself, I'm the type of guy that likes a lot of different things. Like, I've always like been in a soccer team, been in a robotics team, done that, done this, like throughout my entire life. Like right before, like I just started today, and right before I decided to move to do this one thing, you know, I've always, I'm not like I have my own company, I have a music company, I have my own, like, I do like tech support here, and I take care of children. I used to do that in New York City. So it's like I like what you said, like, how you don't know if you're going to be able to stay on the computer and do all that. Like, right now I'm on that question mark. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is me, but
Yeah,
what do you think?
I think that
How should I take the real question is, how should I take the Tech Academy? You know, how should I approach it in this mentality?
totally. So, speaking strictly from my experience, which can't necessarily cover yours, but I think when I went to Tech Academy, one of the cool things is that you know you did get a pretty solid taste of lots of different things, and you know, like I said, that experience of working in SQL and just finding out like, oh, wow, this is something that catches on fire with me a little bit more than other things. So paying close attention to what messages you're receiving through that process, but I think the other half of that is just kind of how fortunate I am being a New Relic that like if I'm curious about exploring anything, if I want to do all these different things throughout my day, I can do as much or as little of that as I want. Like I've got my my bare metal job description, and I do need to do that. But if I want to come to the Tech Academy and give a presentation, they're like, yeah, get paid for that time to go to like I'm getting paid to do this by my company. Just it counts as paid volunteer hours. Or if I want to take on more of a training role, I can do that. Like things that excite me in my job actually end up being a little bit less of the nitty-gritty work that I do, and I hop around. I'm on my feet. I'm in meetings. I'm collaborating with the engineering team, telling them, I broke this thing that you just released. Here's what I found is broken. Here's where the code I think is broken. Here's that feedback. Do you agree? Do you want to fix it? Hey, I'd like to be involved in the interview process for my team now, so I started interviewing people for my team. Hey, I'd like to give presentations at our Product Summit meetings. And so, at least at my company, whatever you're curious about, they'll be like, yeah, go get it, man. And then if you're just like, hey, I'd just like to actually keep my head down and just do the work I was hired to do, they're like, please do that. So I think if that's your personality type, if you really like exploration, if you really like variety, finding a company that will support that is going to be really important for you. And that's definitely one of the really satisfying things I found about where I landed. Does that answer your question? You can throw it at me again.
Indirectly, but like how should I take the learning in the Tech Academy specifically? Since I'm always used to doing a lot of things now.
Yeah, so I think one of the things, and I hope this is a little bit better for you as an answer, one of the things I found through my interview process was that companies really want to see that you are excited about and working on your own projects. So like they go above and beyond just like the projects that come as a natural consequence of your coursework here, right? So if you are, if you're excited about your music company and that's something that you're stoked about, then take a pet project and build yourself a music website to promote your own business. Take the skills you learn here and use it to create and create and create and create. I think that something that can be overlooked in software development that, or maybe there's a stigma about software development is it's this like very like heads down nerdy thing that like, you got to be a special kind of person to really enjoy that work. But like, I come from an artsy-fartsy background with my family, and like I was a drama nerd, and I'm a DJ, and like I've never thought in much of a technical mindset. But one of the things that I ended up appreciating about coding was that it did feel like a creative outlet. Like you are creating things, and the way you write code can be very artistic. And so that was a helpful way for me to frame it and make it something that was more exciting to me rather than just being this like kind of technical person I didn't necessarily feel that I was. If that makes sense. Does that answer your question a little better? Okay, cool. Cool. Yeah.
As part of those 8 injuries that you had, do you have any kind of like challenges, like coding challenges, or a way to actually like show that you have those basic skills?
Yeah. So they do give you yes. I think it's a little bit different because I've heard other people like cite their experience of like having to whiteboard right in front of their interviewers, and thank God I didn't have to do that because I think I would have been screwed. But because that kind of pressure is bad for me. But the coding challenge I got from New Relic was to create my own application and then install one of their language agents to monitor and generate data into my dashboard and then tell them what that meant. And so
Any language? Or you just say,
well, let me try and recite them. The language agents that we support, that we have, .NET, Node, Java, Ruby, PHP, Go, Python. We have a C agent in beta testing right now. There might be one other one that I'm missing, but I've forgotten. But I was like, I had written a couple of Node apps while I was here, so I was like, oh, Node's pretty easy for me to spin something up that's really simple and basic. So I quickly threw together a Node app, and then I downloaded their Node agent, integrated it into my application, sent the data up to New Relic.
and you don't mind, do you remember what you built? Like, how complicated was it? And how long do you have?
It was a like Lauren of some website. Was all it was. It was just like, here's a splash page for this thing written in Node, and it was hosted on Heroku. And like if I clicked a button, that click would show up in my dashboard on New Relic from clicking the button.
Okay.
That was kind of it. So
Okay, cool.
I think as far as technical challenges that I've heard given in interviews, that one is fairly lightweight. I know that one of the tech talks I listened to from a student who got hired at Zapproved had to do a whiteboarding challenge that just like stressed me out listening to it, and they didn't make me do that at New Relic. They also, because I work in support and I work with customers and communicate a lot with them, they made me create my own problem scenario and how would I troubleshoot it with a customer, because they really wanted to see just my thought process behind how I crunch down problems and how do I eliminate and troubleshoot. And so actually another piece of the answer I give you folks is that pay deep attention to how you troubleshoot the problems you troubleshoot when you're here working on stuff. Those were questions I got asked a lot in my interviews. Was how do you narrow down the source of a problem? Because whether or not you're in support or you're going into software development, that's something you're going to have to do. And so they want to see that you have that skill set. So I would say work extra hard to flex those muscles while you're here. Troubleshooting muscles are really, really helpful.
What was your answer to that question?
What was my answer? What was the question?
How you go about troubleshooting?
Oh, that question. Gosh, in the specific scenario, what I had done was because they present that question to you in the context of like, customer says that they try to load the New Relic dashboard and they just get a blank screen. Where do you start? And this is like without me knowing anything about New Relic, right? So it wasn't so much of whether I was going to deliver the correct answer to how to get a blank screen and not be blank anymore, but how I asked my questions to the customer, like, what are the things you've tried so far? Have you tried these things so far? What are the results of those things? Okay, once we get to that step, how do we eliminate based on the new information that's provided from trying those steps? How do we eliminate some of the potential causes? Okay, we've narrowed those down, now we're down to 2 or 3 potential causes. Let's try these next steps to narrow it down further. And it's just a process of scoping down and using your tool set to scope down. So I think like a lot of times in the case of you all, it's going to be like using the dev tools in Chrome and trying to look where things are breaking down from the dev console, stuff like that. So, does that answer your question? Cool. Anything else?
Real quickly.
Yeah.
Do you have any meetups you'd recommend?
Because that was another piece of advice of doing what I don't do. I didn't go to meetups. I went to one meetup at New Relic. Thought it looked like a nightclub. Went ahead and applied. I think if I was going to give you better advice than that, I think go to meetups over stuff that you are familiar with, because I think it's going to help with your confidence in those things. It's going to help you feel like you can participate in those things if it's stuff you're familiar with. But 100% go to meetups that you are totally in the deep end on. That's another piece. Is just the networking that comes out of meetups is huge. Like that one networking meetup I went to in New Relic was like a total benefit to me. Outside of it looking like a nightclub, like I met some people who were really helpful in kind of giving me more information to help me decide that I wanted to apply there. So there's totally the networking side of meetups that's really valuable, but then there's the side of like doing a combo of meetups where you're both confident and totally in the deep end, and getting the shared experience from both. Anything else? Anything online? Yeah.
You mentioned you were currently in a support as a support engineer.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself still having to develop your self-development skills, technical skills?
100%. Yes.
And how are you going about that?
Those are great questions. So I think there's a couple of things that play into that. First, in the world of technology, like I know we hear it a lot, especially when we're here, but it's like it is so real, is that it evolves so rapidly. So like the stuff I was trained on a little more than a year ago during my onboarding, like a lot of that doesn't exist today, just at my company, because we move forward so rapidly. So there's a side of it where you're constantly learning new stuff just as a means to how pertinent it is to your job and what you do in your day-to-day. The other side of it is that depending on what your interests are, like if I told my manager like, hey, I'd really like to goal for being a dev on the Ruby team, like that's something I'd really like. There are internally at New Relic, there are Ruby meetups. You can go to the Ruby, like the engineering team's demos and what they're working on. You can go to book club that's dedicated to Ruby. You can, there's so many resources internally at my work to help your self-development on that technical path, and it just depends on what your interest is. For me, I personally tend to be leaning a little bit more towards enjoying the management side of things, and so that's where I'm self-developing. But certainly, if I wanted to be delving even harder into technical stuff, there's so much resource for me at work, between the programs that they sponsor for their employees, the mass amounts of bookshelves everywhere with code books on them that you can just pluck off and start reading, to like everybody is highly available to you as a resource at work too. So if I wanted to go talk to the product manager for the Ruby team, that person would absolutely get coffee with me and chat with me, and they do it more than once. And so it depends on what your interest is, but at least at my job, there's a ton of resource within the company to do it to where I don't find myself like exploring Stack Overflow on my own at home on my own time. My self-development does actually happen while I'm at work, and I get to leave in at work, which is also something I really appreciate. Does that answer your question? Anybody else?
I'm not sure how to address this, but I'm really attracted to how you talk about handling data, like using data to do something. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you're looking for jobs. I think the way I'm looking right now is like the title is very limited. So I just wonder what other titles you might think would apply.
Or like specifically working
Yeah, like
in data?
mostly working with data.
I know at my company, outside of just like the fact that the product we deal with works with big data and provides lots of data to other companies, outside of that bare fact, we have data analysts within our company that are providing feedback to the executive team at our company. So for instance, we work in a program called Zendesk, and it's a ticketing program where a customer has an issue, they write down the issue, it comes through to us in our Zendesk view. And we have analysts that are tracking every single ticket that comes in and what category it's under and what was its mean time to resolution, and was this a customer that pays us $100,000 or was this a customer that pays us $1,500 in a year? And they collaborate on compile all these stats and then provide them to the company so that we can use that information to make our workflows more efficient or find out where we have kinks in our own process. And so I could speak to just the fact that even within my company that works with data products, like there are people who are working with data for the data company. And as far as I know, that job title is called data analyst. And I would assume that internally in a lot of other companies that's a role that does exist. That's one that one of the data analysts at my job started as a BSE in my role. Yeah, business support engineer. And that's kind of just, it's an excellent foot in the door to the whole wide world that's there.
So what do you exactly need to have to be a business support analyst? Engineer.
What do you need to have? I think that you need to have a strong sense of problem solving and troubleshooting, like I mentioned earlier. I think that in my role specifically, we do interface directly with customers. We're communicating with customers both over messages and tickets and on the phone if they call in. And we'll highlight we're not a call center. I think I've done like 5 phone calls in the year and a half, or not quite year and a half I've been there. So it's not a call center, but you do get on the phone here and there. So you do need to have some communication skills at hand as well, and I think an ability to communicate complex topics, which I think that our time here does give us that ability, because especially when you get to the live project portion of your curriculum here, you are and that was my favorite part of the curriculum, by the way. It was actually when I got to work with another person on a project. That was really fun for me because there's sparks that fly when you do that. They think of something you don't think of, and you think of something they don't think of. But being able to have that collaboration dynamic, I think, is really important, especially in my role as well, because we're collaborating with customers and we're working with them to solve their problems. So I think a strong sense of troubleshooting, strong sense of collaboration and communication, and I think biggest of all, and this was probably one of the biggest, one of the skill sets I'm most grateful I walked away from the Tech Academy with, which was not being afraid of what I don't know, which Tech Academy really forces you to confront, because it's a self-guided study, and yes, we do have instructors that we can lean on, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of self-education that goes on, and I have historically been a terrible self-learner. I have tried so many YouTube videos and not gotten anywhere. And the structure here helped me find a good, healthy way to develop those skills and to feel more confident in them. And so when I'm interviewing people to be on my team, that's a big thing to look for, is are you afraid of what you don't know, or how do you handle what you don't know? And what I'm looking for is a willingness to just get in and dive in and not be afraid to ask questions and not be afraid to fail. We have a wonderful culture of failure at New Relic, where you fail fast, fail hard, and then learn from it. And it's totally okay to do. And I think being willing to live in that vulnerability is really important. Did that answer your question? Okay. Yeah. Anything else?
Mentioned you have another business that's not related to anything else.
I own an event production company with my girlfriend, sitting in the middle, and a couple of our friends. For lack of much better words, we throw giant raves.
What DJ for
That's the good part, yeah.
What DAW do you use?
I do not use a DAW. I'm not a producer. I'm just a DJ.
I've been kind of wanting to do probably be a music producer as like a second job.
Yeah. You know, I tried exploring music production before I went to Tech Academy, and this is one of those pinnacle moments I think about when I talk about myself not being a self-learner. Is, you know, there's like just endless videos online for learning music production, and I just couldn't cut it.
That's the thing about music production. Like a lot of like really famous dudes, like they self-taught themselves almost. It's just like if you look at them, it's just a bunch of spaghetti. You look at like a bunch of videos, like you just don't know where to begin.
Totally.
And that's also kind of a reason why and also another reason why I haven't I've always done a lot of research on it, but the problem is like it's expensive starting it up. Like I did the total cost of everything. It's easy like more than $2,000.
Yeah, it's expensive for sure.
So yeah, it's like I don't really want to really kind of get started until I have like a good job.
Yeah, and I think the skills that you learn here about like self-teaching and like learning how to find your resources online and everything like that, I think totally apply to trying out music production. I spelunked in Ableton for a long while before I gave up, so that was the DAW that I played with.
Ableton's cool. I personally like it more than FL Studio just because it's like it's more complicated, but you can also like do a lot better sound effects.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety in there.
And I feel like a lot of like the more famous DJs, or like the world class DJs, they use Ableton. Like FL Studio is like a good thing to start out with. I don't want to veer off topic, sorry.
No, you're totally okay. I own an event production company. We throw everything from large scale warehouse events to something already in like established clubs. We do stuff at White Owl Social Club.
Which venues do you like?
What's that?
Which venues?
We have a long-running seasonal show for the summertime called Your Sunday Best. It's a Sunday patio day party that is at White Owl Social Club. We've done stuff at Bit House Saloon off Grand, Liquor Store off Belmont. What am I missing?
I would like to, actually, one of my dreams is that I would like to like be really good at music productions. Then I could maybe like even like one day say like do a session at like Holocene and one session at like 45 East.
Yeah, totally.
Just kind of like that.
Those are great clubs too. We don't throw our shows there, but I've played there.
Yeah, it's probably expensive though.
It's actually not too bad to throw a show at an established venue.
I've always been interested in music production. It's been like something like that's been like almost my thing like since like early college.
I'll give you my card for my other company before we leave.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want
No,
to.
you're totally welcome to reach out to me and I'm
Absolutely,
happy to
like-
answer any questions you have. Totally. Anything else?
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys.